Hello and welcome to Devil's Advocate. How honest has Congress and the government been in its response to the recent Bhopal crisis? That's the key issue I should explore today with the Corporate Affairs Minister and a former General Secretary of the Congress Party, Salman Khurshid. Mr. Khurshid, let me start with a blunt question. Has the Congress Party been deliberately misleading the country over the Anderson issue, or is it really the case that your party doesn't know what your own government was doing in 1984?
Well, there's no reason why the institutional memory of the party should be so great and so long that we can specifically tell you what the government did. The government has a record, the government will produce the record. There's a GOM that's looking at what happened, and whatever is found necessary will be given to the public.
Did you really mean the first part of that answer, that there's no reason why the party should have a memory that can stretch back 25 years? I mean, are you suffering from amnesia?
No, there are individuals who may know things, but the party doesn't keep a regular record like a government does. Government has files, government has documents, government has a whole record of things that it does. The party doesn't always have this. We have documents like, your manifesto, your posters, your pictures, but there is no regular record of every word that's spoken over the years.
All right, I'll come to the party in a moment's time. Let me first ask you three critical test questions. As of today, do you accept that Rajiv Gandhi was aware that safe passage had been asked for and given to Warren Anderson, and this was a decision that he approved of and concurred with?
I think this is too sensitive a question on which, unless I have specific information, for me to give an answer would be unfair, both to myself and to the people who would be watching me.
Can I interrupt?
These are questions.
Let me tell you why I asked. The Foreign Secretary of the day, M.K. Rasgotra, has gone on record to say that this is the case. The then American Chargé d'Affaires Gordon Strebe has gone on record to say the same thing, and in fact United Carbide actually issued a press statement confirming this at the time. Three different people saying the same thing, and you still don't feel you're convinced?
Well, there are a lot of people who've said other things here. I mean, there has been a contemporary statement that was made by the then Chief Minister. That's there. Other people who've recorded...
The then Chief Minister, forgive me, has in no way contradicted this. He has simply gone on record in the Hindustan Times on Saturday to say that he was not in the loop. That doesn't mean to say he's contradicting it in any sense.
The statement has been shown that the Chief Minister had a press conference at which he said he had taken a decision. Now, I think we cannot go beyond what the Chief Minister then had said. We can't go beyond what several people are saying on both sides, as it were. Let the government actually take a final view, put the record together, and the truth will then be known to everyone.
Let me put this to you. This has become a matter of key concern. It is a huge swelling controversy in the country. Why is the government not able to clarify the matter immediately? Why do you need, forgive me, an empowered group of ministers to clarify indisputable facts that everyone knows of? Why do you need ministers to do that?
Listen. Every time there is an issue about facts, you either have an investigation, you have an inquiry, or you have a group of ministers or a cabinet meeting to say, let's check what the facts were and then produce these facts for the country. What's wrong with that?
That's exactly what M.K. Rasgotra, who was Foreign Secretary, has done for you. He knows what the facts are. He's gone public to say, well, what do you mean he's won? He was the Foreign Secretary.
I know he's Foreign Secretary, he's an important person, but there must have been a Foreign Minister, there must have been a Home Minister.
I'm afraid, was Rajiv Gandhi. He's now dead.
There would have been a Home Minister, there would have been a Home Secretary.
That was Narasimha Rao. He too is dead.
Well, then somebody would have the record.
Precisely. M.K. Rasgotra has gone on record.
Listen, you can't...
The American Chargé d'Affaires has gone on record, and Union Carbide issued a press statement at that time. All three the same thing.
It doesn't matter. If we are actually looking at all this, why don't we wait for a formulation? Why don't we wait for a definitive statement to be made by the government?
Do you know what this sounds like? This sounds like not just prevarication, but an attempt to be in denial. You know that these are facts, but you don't want to accept them. You want to delay in the hope that the public and the press will forget. Be upfront and be honest with the people of India.
If you waited for this, if you waited 26 years or 20 years, why can't you wait another 20 days or perhaps for a week to get a definitive statement from government? Why do you want to take little bits of information from various people in the know or not in the know and then piece together a picture that is not necessarily the correct picture?
All right, I will, for argument's sake and the purpose of this interview, accept that let's wait a week, as you say. But can you give me a guarantee that this is not an indefinite week, that a week won't become 2 and it won't become 3 and it won't become a month? Can you set a deadline by when you will clarify this?
I'm neither the Prime Minister nor servicing the group of ministers.
That's why I ask. That's why I ask, because the country's been waiting.
We will.
The whole issue has been hanging fire.
Listen, all I can tell you is that, to my knowledge, a group of ministers have never met like they've met in this case. They met yesterday. They're meeting today. And they have, within 3 days, they've promised a report to the cabinet.
Aren't there simple records you can check in a matter of minutes or a couple of hours at the most?
Where would you check records? Records are not in one place.
Are you saying to me the Foreign Ministry doesn't have a record that the Foreign Secretary approached the Home Secretary, who then approached the Home Minister, and that safe passage was granted? There are no records of that?
Foreign Ministry would have a record, but you're not asking the Foreign Minister, you're asking me.
But why does the government need an empowered group of ministers? Just go to the ministry records, clarify and inform the country.
In a piecemeal manner, you can't go to different offices, and who would be authorized to go to different offices, collect the information. And here it's not just a question of giving you out what happened at that time.
Do you really believe what you're saying? It sounds like gobbledygook in Alice in Wonderland.
Well, I mean, you could say what you like, but the fact remains that till there's an authorized definitive statement, anything that any one of us says has no meaning.
All right, let me pick up on something. Till there's an authorized definitive statement, no one knows for sure. Is that what you're saying?
No. It's meaningless if I say anything. It has no authenticity, it has no basis, and certainly no authority.
Very interesting. It's meaningless if you say anything, it has no authenticity, it has no basis. Then now let's come to what your party spokesmen have been saying.
Okay.
Because they haven't accepted the point that you've just made. On the 11th of June, Jayanti Natarajan went public at a formal press briefing, and this is what she said. There is no question of the Rajiv Gandhi government being implicated. I categorically deny any involvement of the central government. The question of the Rajiv Gandhi government's involvement does not arise. Not only was that a very stupid thing to say because she hadn't checked, but it is clearly and totally false. How come she can be so categoric and the government can't?
Well, because political parties can say things without necessarily having to prove it.
But don't political parties need to be correct before they open their mouth?
Governments, I'm not saying that she's wrong.
And this is your political party.
No, it's not a question of whether she is right or wrong. There are certain assessments and perceptions that the party would have, and the party would be free to make them available to public.
No, forgive me.
But the government
those assessments and perceptions have to be based on something factual. They can't be imaginary and fictional.
But it must be. Why are you assuming
what was it based on? Because all the evidence is the exact opposite.
You could have asked her a second question. You haven't. Now, why should I answer a question that the party has proposed or a party has suggested? I will wait for my government to come out with an authentic statement based on the record available with government.
Let me repeat what you said. You could have asked her a question. You didn't. In fact, that question was asked exactly a week later to her colleague Manish Tiwari, who on the 17th of June commented on Gordon Street, the then American Chargé d'Affaires revelation that safe passage had been asked for and granted to Warren Anderson. And do you know what Manish Tiwari said? He said, I reject the conclusions with the contempt they deserve. And then he went on to say, anyone who claims that Rajiv Gandhi's government or Rajiv Gandhi himself had anything to do with Anderson is despicable. Now, not only is he once again totally wrong, but in addition, he's being offensive. And what you find is that one Congress spokesman backs up the utter nonsense spoken by an earlier Congress spokesman. This situation is getting worse and worse and worse.
I think you're also using very strong language for people who are trying to handle an aggressive press and trying to make a point across that don't come to any preconceived notions or judge something before the facts are known to you.
But hang on, they've already made a judgment. They're coming up with definitive answers which are not just foolish, they turn out to be completely wrong.
It is their perception. We have to...
Their perception? Don't they want fact?
We have to prove, we are the government, we have to prove facts, we have to show a record, and you know that our record is available under the right to information. So we can't possibly say to you something that is not authenticated by a record.
But party spokesmen can say utter nonsense.
They're not under the same
But
regime.
they're your party spokesmen.
Of course,
the integrity of your party hinges upon the accuracy of what they say. They're making a mockery of your party's integrity.
The difference is about perception that is available with them.
What is perception based upon?
Perception is based on some knowledge, some narratives, some degree of assumptions that are made. We cannot make assumptions.
Thank you very much.
We must show record, and that record will be shown to you once the GOM has taken a view.
Thank you very much. Perceptions, even of party spokesmen, must be based upon some knowledge. Let me now come to my third example. sitting in faraway Washington, without having seen, heard or read the Rasgotra interview given to this channel, Abhishek Singhvi, your party's senior-most spokesperson, at a press conference said of Mr. Rasgotra's comments that they were completely outrageous and a ridiculous allegation. He then went on to be personal and accused the gentleman of being purely political, and finally he questioned why is he now speaking out 25 years later. Tell me something, is it acceptable for your party's senior-most spokesperson to comment on something he hasn't seen, hasn't read, hasn't heard? Is that acceptable?
But has he not seen it? I don't know.
He hadn't.
I mean,
he hadn't.
Party spokesperson, listen.
I sent him the transcript after his comment had been carried by PTI. To that point of time, he hadn't even seen the transcript.
You sent a transcript, he may have seen it somewhere. When you air something...
I sent it after he made his comment. He doesn't deny that the comment was made without seeing the interview.
He has not been asked to deny or not to deny. How do you know he has not seen an interview?
Because I asked him.
How do you know that somebody
Because I asked him.
No, but somebody may have reported to him about the interview. You might not see the picture, but somebody may report this is what somebody has said, and you would have a response.
Is it acceptable that on the basis of hearsay, a party spokesman should rubbish someone like Rasgotra and say that what he said is completely outrageous and a ridiculous allegation?
There's a context available. Whatever Mr. Rasgotra would have said, the context in which he has said it is a context that's available to the party spokespersons. They do have some background on it. It isn't that they are shooting off without knowing anything at all. They have a background, but the level and rigor and the robustness of the backup that they need is different from what the government needs. And the government will then, therefore, provide you with the backup that is called for when we say this is our case.
Interesting that you should say that there's a context in which remarks are made by party spokesmen. Let me give you the context, which you probably know better than I do, of Mr. M.K. Rasgotra. He wasn't just Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi's foreign secretary, but after retirement, Rajiv Gandhi chose to make him High Commissioner to London. Sonia Gandhi then made him a member of the Congress Party's Foreign Affairs cell. In fact, briefly, he was also chairman of that cell. And then Dr. Manmohan Singh made him chairman of the National Security Advisory Board. In all senses of the word, this man is practically a congressman himself. And yet, your spokesman says that his comments are outrageous. Isn't that bizarre?
Well, listen, the point is, there is, as I said, a context. The spokesperson is the person who has made a statement. Why don't we put him in this chair and ask him all the questions you want?
Because he's sitting in Washington.
You're asking
He's not
me.
accessible to the press, but he manages to make statements that not only confuse, but are untrue
take a flight,
and personal.
Take a flight to wherever he is, New York, go and talk to him. Now, all questions that should really be directed at our spokesperson, who I think is an able spokesperson and would be able to very, very comfortably answer your questions, are being directed to me. I'm not the one who's made that proposition to begin with. I'm not the one who's claiming to have a special knowledge of what happened in the events leading to Bhopal or thereafter. And I'm certainly not today authorized to say anything.
All right, let's take a break at that point. I want to come back and reverse the discussion and put something else to you.
Okay.
Should spokesmen first check their facts before they rush to deny and denounce? That's in a moment's time. See you after the break. Welcome back to Devil's Advocate and an exclusive interview with the Minister of Corporate Affairs, the former General Secretary of the Congress Party, Salman Khurshid. Mr. Khurshid, we're talking about party spokesmen and we're talking about their attitude to the Anderson story and the manner in which they rush to make statements. Let me put a simple concern to you that the people of India ask. Why can't Congress Party spokesmen check their facts before they rush to make denials and issue denunciations?
Now that's a good question. I've been spokesperson myself. I know that it's a very tough job. It's not it's a 24/7 job because people from your tribe, the media, will not give you a convenient moment to answer the question. You have to answer hot from the oven, as it were.
Can't a spokesman be honest and say, I need to check that, I don't know, I'll get back to you in a couple of hours?
That is, I think that's a good technique.
Why don't these colleagues of yours do that? Why do they rush to denounce when they don't have the facts?
We are not running a school for spokespersons.
Don't you think you should?
All we are doing
in the circumstances, don't you think you should?
In fact, I've always believed that both the media and people who handle the media in our party, or for that matter in any other party, need a greater deal of training, understanding, and certainly an interface to be able to communicate better. And I think we've done this exercise in the past when I was a spokesperson.
You need to do it again, repeatedly and rigorously.
I can't say whether we should or should not, but I think even us ministers, we need to be able to handle the kind of media that you have, the kind of pressure that you have today, and then every little wink and every little movement on your face can be interpreted to mean something. So I think that this is a tough job. Please don't be too tough on them, because it's not an easy thing to do.
But what about saying also the obvious and natural conclusion to what you said up till now, that spokesmen need to be more sure of what they're saying, more certain of their facts, and to just pause and think before they start denying and denouncing and end up finding that they themselves are in the wrong. Would you agree with that?
See, spokesperson can go wrong. Spokespersons often, when they go wrong, they come up with an explanation, and they even regret if something has backfired.
Gee.
But please understand, it's in the heat of the moment. It is not people who've been able to reflect endlessly before they come back. It's not like you're arguing a case in front of a judge, so that you prepare all your briefs and papers and then you come.
Let me put this to you. What then should the country make of Congress spokesmen and their briefings? If I were to say to you that often they don't know what they're talking about and sometimes they're downright lying, you couldn't deny it. You couldn't deny it.
I will deny it.
But I've given you examples of Jayanti Natarajan, Manish Tiwari, Abhishek Singhvi simply not knowing what they're talking about, but that doesn't stop them from talking.
You know the expression being economical with the truth?
They aren't.
Now, when one is dealing with difficult public debates and questions, you have to be careful with what you say. Even if you have to concede something, there is a proper moment for conceding it, and that has to wait till a party decision is taken.
Is it acceptable for spokesmen in the process to lie and mislead?
I'm not accepting that anyone is lying. Choice of words may be something you may argue about, but I'm not prepared to say that they are lying. I'm not prepared to say that they are completely off the mark. They are frankly handling a very difficult brief, and I think we must
handling it rather badly, one would say.
That's for you to judge, but obviously we have faith in them, we have confidence in them. That's why we consider them to be the face, the best face.
Let me put it like this. The impression that people of India get is that Congress spokesmen hold the Indian people in utter contempt, because those spokesmen believe they can say anything they want and get away with it, whether it's correct or wrong.
I think you're being too harsh. Really, you're being too harsh. There are communication skills that you have to learn. There are communication skills that are wanting at a time when you have a very difficult brief. But I don't think that you're being fair if you say that they are lying, or they're being insensitive, or they're being unfair, or they're being incompetent. I don't accept this.
Let me put it like this. Do the Congress spokesman, and I mean that in the plural, not any one single individual, owe the people of India an apology for misleading them, whether that was done advertently or inadvertently?
Let us first get the facts. We haven't yet established the facts as they will be presented to this country. Those facts will be there. They are not to be hidden. We are not going to run away from our responsibility. Why should you prejudge our spokespersons before that happens?
All right. When the facts are established, and as they will undoubtedly be, they turn out to be as I've presented them today, will your spokesman then apologize?
It may be the other thing, in which case I'll ask you to apologize.
If the spokesman turn out to be wrong, will they apologize?
I'm not here for ifs and buts. What if you are wrong? What if you are wrong and they are right? Then you will not come back.
I give you a cast iron guarantee that if I'm wrong, I will apologize to you, to the Congress party. Now, in return, if I can be so forthright, will you be forthright? If the Congress spokesmen are wrong, will they apologize?
If you think that we've misled you, I will apologize. But I can't speak on behalf of my colleagues. All I can say is they're doing a difficult job. They're doing a good job. Please give them a hand of support. Don't run them down like this.
Salman Khurshid, that was large-hearted of you to say that you will apologize. I hope your spokesman take a lesson from you. A pleasure talking to you.